Hi, I'm Udayan Tandon, a PhD student at the Just Transitions Initiative at the Design Lab in UCSD. This talk is about a brief summary of our paper, Hostile Ecologies, Navigating the Barriers to Community-Led Innovation. I'm presenting the joint work of a team that notably includes Mikaiil Hussein and Peter Zschiesche from United Taxi Workers San Diego, Dr. Vera Khovanskaya, a postdoc at the Just Transitions Initiative, Enrique Arcilla, an urban studies graduate from UCSD, and Dr. Lilly Irani. Our CSCW community has a long history of tackling complex socio-technical problems of design and technology through a worker-centered lens, operationalizing it through approaches such as participatory design and community-engaged design. Scholarship centering that lens focuses on issues of political agency and community capacity building as a pathway towards building worker agency over the technologies they live by. Our work adds to that scholarship by working alongside taxi workers in San Diego, attempting to gain agency over their workplace through cooperative means. Our findings show that they have to pursue technology innovation in an environment set up to favor college-educated formal experts, venture capital-backed startups, and large corporations. I present a snapshot of these findings here by first introducing you to United Taxi Workers San Diego, their struggle, and their vision. Next, I will briefly illustrate barriers to implementing their vision through two stories, finally concluding with an argument from our paper about the hostility of technology and innovation policies towards taxi workers and hinting at some future work. United Taxi Workers San Diego is a refugee-led worker advocacy organization uniting taxi drivers across races and ethnic groups to achieve better working conditions. UDWST's goal is to unify taxicab workers to improve working conditions and to improve on-demand urban transit in San Diego. As part of this, UDWST has consistently strived to create platforms for dignified driving work. We support the work of United Taxi Workers San Diego through a 3-year-long ongoing collaboration between them and the Just Transitions Initiative. Together, through weekly meetings, co-design workshops, and policy and strategy work with elected public officials and staff, we work to collate and highlight the problems caused by transportation network companies or TNCs like Uber and Lyft, which include climate problems due to the promotion of vehicles driving around empty looking for passengers, well-known worker equity problems, and accessibility problems due to their inability to ensure appropriate availability of wheelchair-accessible vehicles. Simultaneously, we developed a vision aimed at configuring taxis as a bespoke solution for addressing the on-demand urban transit problems of the sprawling San Diego region. Inspired by debates about the need for public competitors to private providers of essential services in the United States, we called this vision the public option amongst ourselves. In this vision, taxis, regulated in the public interest, seek to extend and complement public transit networks in service of meeting climate goals by increasing public transit ridership, also restoring dignified and essential transportation work in the process. The plan that emerged from this vision was for a democratically controlled, publicly regulated, and just workplace for taxi drivers, facilitated by a regulated app platform designed for taxi drivers, coordinated by public agency with broad reach to riders. This vision and planning work, while not easy, went relatively smoothly. But as we began to negotiate access to an app platform, developing a driver cooperative, and assembling a pilot for the public option, barriers started to block our progress. I'm going to illustrate these barriers through two stories, highlighting the struggle and advocacy of taxi workers, UDWST, and allied technology researchers as they work towards building a cooperatively owned taxi business with an app platform. This first story is about how visioning was not worthwhile for drivers when faced with issues about their present material conditions. The research team facilitated regular discussions with drivers around bylaws, voting, and operations in service of developing a cooperative, a driver-owned collective entity with a vision of bidding for and servicing city transportation contracts. In our narrow focus on preparing the cooperative to achieve its vision, we failed to notice that high insurance rates, a recurring monthly cost for drivers, was a barrier to drivers' willingness in engaging with cooperative development. Nevertheless, drivers asserted their concerns and worked with UDWST's president Mikaiil Hussein to bring a new, more affordable insurance company to San Diego. After the successful intervention, drivers became more willing to engage with cooperative development work. This moment shows that resource barriers limit people's will to imagine and work towards blue sky plans, which Harrington, Irete, and Piper's work covers in great detail. This next story is about how the Regional Transportation Planning Agency forgot about taxis, but pushing back against that omission revealed an even bigger barrier. Through UTWST's relationships with policymakers, our team became aware of a draft program that would ease passenger access to public transit hubs by utilizing on-demand transportation in a bid to increase public transit usage. Very similar to UTWST's own vision. However, the plan for this program did not mention taxis at all, signaling to us that the Regional Planning Agency saw regulated city taxis as obsolete and sought instead to coordinate transportation network companies. UTWST brought the Regional Planning Agency to account for the omission of taxis at public meetings, detailing many disadvantages of relying on Uber and Lyft while championing taxis as an alternative worth investing in for the future. As a result, taxis were included in the final planning document, but when the procurement call for implementation was published, the requirements were impossible for a small taxi worker cooperative to meet. As we did this work, we encountered people, often other computer science researchers, who believed that if only taxi drivers could muster access to a well-designed app platform, then they would be able to compete with tech giants like Uber and Lyft in San Diego. Through these stories, however, you can begin to see crucial barriers that lie beyond accessing an app platform. Taxi drivers pursuing technologically enabled opportunities lack access to appropriate funding resources or software support. Taxi workers are also regulated by policies that fail to consider equity, forcing them to compete directly with companies that are subject to less regulation, possess more lobbying power, and more access to capital. As a result, communities of drivers, predominantly immigrants and people of color, experience diminished agency over the design of the systems they live by. Our paper offers a thick description of this hostile technology innovation ecology, built, maintained, and adjusted to favor elite, educated, and resourcefully networked tech innovators over community groups of workers like taxi drivers. Our journey to this point reveals that UTWST's vision falls between the cracks of the institutional policy and funding ecology of technology innovation. If you read the paper, and I really hope you do, I would like you to compare the journey of taxi workers with Elizabeth Holmes, the founder of Theranos, who was recently found guilty of fraud, raised close to $1 billion with a turtleneck, a Stanford network, and a dream. Her class position, racial identity, and networks align with widespread imaginations of what an innovator looks like and what support they deserve. In conclusion, we hope our vision can become a real utopia, as Eric Olin Wright described, that addresses social needs without exploitation of workers. This project continues forward in an ongoing struggle to integrate worker justice, disability justice, and climate justice by retrofitting the know-how and equipment of the taxi industry. This is a model of technology development that is not just driven by worker voice, but also seeks to be answerable to San Diego's communities through public institutions. Thank you so much for listening, and I would also like to thank our collaborators and funders for making this work possible.